Hey, we are delighted today to announce that Taylor Roberts has rejoined the Hobart Chargers women's program for 2021 in NBL 1 South. It's great to have Taylor locked in. Taylor's a real force in this competition and has really come into pre-season in great shape, and we're looking forward to seeing her dominate this year. We're absolutely stoked to have Taylor, and she's been around this level of competition almost for the last decade. Came in, she's a WNBL Rookie of the Year. She's played at the AIS, she's played right across the country, junior Australian team. So for her, I really think she can be the best player in her position in the competition, and that's been my message to her, to say let's come in and let's really dominate this year. The great thing with Taylor is she has actually been based here in Hobart. She's studying at the University of Tasmania, she's working locally. But for us, really importantly, she's been playing in the Northwest Basketball Union. So over the last 8 weeks, Taylor's been playing against the best competition here in the state. And pleasingly for our round 1 opener, she's been playing against a lot of Tornadoes players. So yeah, they've had a bit of a look at her, but there'll be a lot of familiar faces for Taylor when she hits the court on Saturday night. So it has been certainly a challenging and disrupted pre-season for us, just based on the number of injuries that we've had, and a really key injury is Shana Thompson, who hurt her quadricep a number of weeks ago. Shana's a week-by-week proposition for us at the moment, so we can't wait to have her back on the training court first and then back playing. Josie Greenwood's injured. We've had a number of just really unfortunate injuries, and we're still working to get Kathleen Shear out from the US. That's a high priority for us. We're working with NBL 1, who have been fantastic. We're working with Border Force. So as soon as we can get Kathleen here, we'll have our full group together. Maddie Garrick arrives in town tomorrow as well. So it's all coming together as well as it can, but it has been a disrupted pre-season. The timeline with Kathleen, it's a bit like Shana Thompson's injury, where it's week by week actually trying to get Kathleen on a plane. There would be a 2-week quarantine period in the port that we can fly her into. So realistically, we're probably looking 3 or 4 weeks, best case, for Kathleen to be on the court. And as I've mentioned previously, Kathleen's been out of the game for a year. In the US, they don't have the same opportunities to play locally, so it will be a progressed stage return to the court for Kath. Taylor is 100% locked in with basketball. I think the opportunity to play football would always be there for her if she did choose to do that. So it's a challenge for our sport that women's football really is growing. It's very attractive for players, playing in front of big crowds. But Taylor's absolutely locked in for basketball, which is great for us. And I think what she's done over the last 2 to 3 years, particularly, is just got herself into an elite running player in her position. So I think she's one of the fittest, most agile players in the league, and that's a real credit to the way that Taylor's prepared herself. Again, she's been in the WNBL, and I think this is going to be a real reset season for her to show everyone what she can do. We do still have a couple of spots available, and there's still the injury management side of things. So we're looking at filling the team for this week a little differently than perhaps we would have if everyone had been available. But certainly I'm pleased and I'm comfortable with where we've landed, and really excited to welcome Maddie Garrick particularly to town tomorrow. And I think Hobart Chargers fans are in for a real treat in the Interstate Derby this weekend against the Torns. The NBL 1 and the league head office have been really transparent, communicating with the clubs around the process, and they've been just so comprehensive, working with Border Force and the relevant state jurisdictions. So there still is a chance that it may not happen if there's another outbreak, as we've seen in Brisbane and Melbourne before that. But we're really confident that things are starting to settle, and a number of clubs across other conferences are signing and announcing imports. So we would have loved to have Kathleen here 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, but we are very confident that we'll be able to get her here in the first third of the season. And I think that would be probably a critical time to try and get her here for the first 7 or 8 games. It is, and I've had some phone calls from coaches from Victoria to saying, look, what's happening down there? Have you heard anything? So clubs right across our conference are in the same boat. Usually clubs would bring 1 or perhaps 2 imports in. But just with the unavailability of those US players early, it's meant that WNBL players and players on the Opals fringe have just been in such high demand. So it's been an off-season like no other. And the demand for those elite level Australian players has just been quite amazing to see how it's been unfolding in recent months. Yeah, the Tawns have got a really Tasmanian flavour, which is fantastic. I like the way that Sarah Veal and the club's gone about building their squad. They've got a number of players that have come through and graduated through the Basketball Tasmania program. They've got a really strong connection to the Northwest region, so a lot of those players are familiar to me. I've seen them over the last 4 or 5 years through junior basketball, and it's really exciting for our state to see them now sort of making their way and making their mark in NBL 1. I think the future of women's basketball is really strong. We've talked a lot about how good it would be to see a WNBL team here at some point in time. So I think on Saturday night, both these teams will have a real local feel. We've got Maddie Garrick, Keely Froling from the Tawns, both in the Australian 3x3 team. So a lot of amazing talent, but a lot of great local homegrown talent as well. Yeah, so Maddie will play the first 4 rounds with us, which is fantastic. And then there's the 3x3 Olympic qualifiers in Austria during May, and there's quarantine on the way back. So really, we're looking at that first block of time where Maddie is fully on board with us. She's signed for the whole season, so that's the plan. But really, it'll depend on what happens at those qualifiers, and then obviously Olympics after that. But we'd love nothing more than to see Maddie, going off to represent Australia at Tokyo, and we're just thrilled to have her here to start the season. And as I've said, we're taking a really flexible approach to this year.